Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Tuesday, January 19th, 2021, and you know what that means. Tomorrow's a big day, but also it's time to get nerdy, y'all. Welcome to episode number 173 of Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest video game podcast in the freaking galaxy. I am Lam, also known as Mr. Nice Guy, and I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend, my comrade in gaming commentary, also known as James Mactionavoy, the Miggity Mac, also known as Macshin. Mac, how are you, buddy? How's things?
Oh man, I'm well. There's been a lot of very interesting, very fun stuff going on lately, and it's hard to know exactly where to start. But I think I'll start with what's probably most apparent, and to those who are here at the show live, and that is a new microphone.
Yes, tell us about it.
Well, I have been rocking a Audio Technica AT2020, a USB mic for ages, probably since at least episode 30, if not even before that. But for a while, I've been wanting something a little bit better, just a step up. And anyway, this is the Shure MV7 because
Nice.
Shure has that SM7B that is chef's kiss. It's just amazing, but it's so outside of my price range because not only is the microphone like $400, $500, but then all the rest of the accoutrement that needs to come with it. A cloud lifter for $150, a USB audio or an XLR to computer audio interface.
Right. Yeah.
That stuff's another like 150 at least. I mean, as Metzgirl would say, audio kind of feels like a racket when you get to a certain point there. So when they came out with this microphone that's only $250 all in, but it does
big spender.
But it does USB and has the option of XLR as well for later.
Okay.
I feel like maybe that'd be cool. So I took a risk and I'm feeling pretty good about it. But yeah, so new dulcet tones courtesy of the new microphone.
Well, you're sounding good. Sounding
Thanks.
silky smooth.
Thanks. So yeah, that's cool stuff that's been going on. I've got a couple of other fun stuff that I don't know if I necessarily want to announce yet, but I am very much looking forward to them when I can.
Nice. I want to hear it off stream. Well, cool. What's up with me? I can't top a new mic, honestly. But I will say my family took a social distancing trip this weekend. With the wife and kids at home for a year during the pandemic, we had to get out. And if you follow us on Discord, I posted some pics of the bratwurst we ate in Milwaukee this weekend. Mac, did those look good to you? Would you eat a brat like that if we made a trip to Milwaukee?
Oh, absolutely.
They didn't look too over the top. There's this fantastic place called the Vanguard in Milwaukee. And every time I go there for comedy or whatever, I have to eat there. Took my wife there for the first time and we ate. It was a blast. We did some fun stuff with the kids. They have biodomes up there. I don't know. You're familiar with biodomes, right? It's just like an environment within a dome. It's pretty dope. So we did that. And Mac, let me tell you this. One of the highlights of the trip was everyone likes movies, right? But movie theaters, not the safest of places during a pandemic with tons of people in a theater. No one's going to movies. And so movie theaters are letting you rent a private theater for very, very cheap prices, like ridiculously cheap for a family my size. So we did that, and my kids played tag in the movie theater the whole movie. And so that was a lot of fun. We saw The Croods too. We could change the baby's diapers in the theater, which has always been a bucket list item for me. And for most people, right, in their 30s.
Sure, yeah.
Want to change my baby's diaper in the theater with no consequence. So we did that, and we had a really good time. And that was my weekend, man.
Nice. Sounds like a fantastic weekend. As for me, it was a holiday weekend, so I got a little bit more time off than usual. I'm used to working these days 6 days a week, and it was nice to have, a couple of days off back to back. So, yeah, but if you did ask about the hot dogs and if it seemed too much, if anything, I kind of felt like it was understated, really.
Really?
Yeah, I felt like it could have used a little bit more on there.
Interesting. So for reference, the one that I posted was a bratwurst called the Packer, Green Bay Packers, Wisconsin, right? That's the reference. It had cheese curds, had a little bit of cheese sauce. And what else did it have? I think that's it. Cheese curds and cheese sauce. Oh, and jalapenos on mine. And then my wife's had fried jalapenos, guac, and some other stuff. And the Vanguard's killer. If you're ever in Milwaukee, just eat there. Just do it. Just trust me. It's really good. Well, Mac, that's what I had. Is there anything else we want to share before we do what we do best?
No, I think we should.
Well, then, my friend, let's do what we do best and hop right up in that gaming news. Right up in that gaming news. What do you think about that?
I say let's do it. And
Ladies,
we need to start things off. Episode 173 of Two Nerds in a Pod. Let's talk about a little something from Capcom. Mr. Nice Guy, if I had to ask you to rank Capcom in the ranking of, shall we say, litigious companies, or let's put it as companies that hate you for liking them, where would you put them in that ranking?
That's tough, man. I would put them somewhere in the middle. Like, if this is Nintendo.
Yeah. Yep.
Right, and then this is Valve, right? I feel like those are polar opposites.
Yeah. As a reference to all the audio onlys, Nintendo was up at the top, and Valve's at the bottom. Carry on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd put Capcom somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, in a very interesting move for Capcom, there was a guy who was doing a fan-made project for a game that Capcom did. It was a Mega Man Battle Network game that was only released on mobile devices, only in Japan, and he was doing a for free distribution fan-made remake of one of those called Rockman.exe, Phantom of the Network. And Capcom shut it down, which is kind of surprising. Capcom usually doesn't shut those things down unless they're doing a remake themselves. Kind of like when we had, we talked about it episodes and episodes ago, when we had people who were making Resident Evil 2 in Unity with with the Resident Evil 4 and 5 style controls. And that project wound up getting shut down. They actually brought some of the team on to help with the Resident Evil 2 remake. Now, as far as I'm aware, this particular gentleman has not been invited to participate in this remake. But usually, when Capcom shuts things down, it's because they're working on it themselves, and they're going to be releasing something. So I don't know how great this game was. Again, mobile-only release, only in Japan. So how would I know? But I feel like maybe we might be seeing some Rockman, some Mega Man Battle Network stuff, maybe a compilation or something like that coming up. Just purely speculation, but again, if past performance is indicative of future results, maybe that might be happening. Now, Mr. Nice Guy,
it could be.
I know that Mega Man's not really your thing, but
dude, I loved Mega Man X, and I like Mega Man. Like, I would say I'm an above average Mega Man fan. Okay. I'm no Maction.
Let me rephrase it. I suspect that Mega Man Battle Network is not one of your but
it's not my thing, right?
Yeah. But I still think it's one of those where, especially games that were only released in Japan, getting a chance to enjoy them here in the States or potentially is, that makes my little heart happy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the more people that can have access to games, the better. That's just how I am. Now, Capcom has allowed fan-made projects in the past, right? Like, wasn't there once upon a time a Mega Man, and you streamed it? It was like a Mega Man Maker.
Yeah, it is still going strong. I think it's in version 7 point something odd. And Capcom is, as far as I'm aware, Capcom is totally cool with it. I mean, and Mega Man Maker is big enough that, I guess there's enough people playing it that there's no way that Capcom doesn't know about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and they obviously weren't going to do a Mega Man Maker, so they allowed that to continue. So we'll have to see what happens with this one that they are shutting down. Mm-hmm. Well, cool. Thanks for popping off with that. What other news you got for us, Mac? You got anything else?
That's the only one. You know me. I got one thing and one thing only, that's Mega Man.
That's awesome. Well, cool. We got some other stuff. And Mac, I want to get your, as always, I want to get your opinion on this. This is on IGN.com by PD Oneto, I believe is how it's pronounced. Guerrilla announced Tuesday that they will release patches for Horizon Zero Dawn PC at a slower rate as they work on the game's sequel. In a post on Guerrilla's website, Guerrilla announced that patch 1.10 is now live for Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition on PC, which introduces crash fixes and performance improvements. Guerrilla also said that more updates will come to the PC version, but more focus is going towards Horizon Forbidden West. Quote, as our team continues development on our upcoming title, Horizon Forbidden West, we are shifting to less frequent updates for Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition for PC after this patch, the statement says. Please note that we will continue to monitor our community spaces as always. So, Mac, here's my question for you. In a time where we see many games released prematurely, released half finished, released with large day one patches, released buggy, Mac, in a time like that, do you think more game companies should follow Guerrilla's lead? Stop patching your old stuff and put your resources towards the sequel? Or do you think that preservation of existing communities by patching old games should be a priority? What do you think?
Man, what a tough question, because I can see both approaches being nice. On the one hand, it is nice to have resources directed to making sure that the next one is better. On the other hand, as we see all too often in games, especially nowadays, where always online and things like that are a fundamental component of a game, the second that a game company decides to stop supporting a game or to stop actively working on it is usually the beginning of the end. There's a period of time, it varies from game to game, but eventually when they stop putting out releases and patches, then we start to see the servers shut down, and then the game become completely unplayable. So I like the idea of bringing the full force of your people to work on something new, but I always get worried because, I don't want to not see it again.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Like, I want games to continue, but I will say this about Horizon Zero Dawn. It's a single player game. So, and also, this is the second iteration in the sense that it came out on PS4 and then later came out on PC. And the PC version is the one that they are now still supporting. I like seeing games be supported, but please stop working on the game that came out several years ago in its first version on PS4. Work on the new game, right? We just saw how badly this can go with a game like Cyberpunk, right? 2077, and how it was released, it was a mess. And I don't think that was due to lack of resources necessarily, but regardless, if a company that can put out The Witcher 3 and CD Projekt Red can later put out a game like Cyberpunk that's just a mess, I think that any developer could fall prey to this and to the same criticism and lawsuits that CD Projekt Red is going through. Focus on the new game. Give us the new stuff. The old game can wait. That's just my opinion. I don't know what the chat thinks, but I thought. Anything else on that, Mac? You want to share with the people?
Well, no, just some strong thoughts. It was a little bit earlier as folk were talking a bit about Cyberpunk and being a glitchy mess and not worth the $30 that they're asking right now. So yeah, I mean, strong feelings about the glitchy mess, but that's about it.
Yeah, and so Max, speaking of that, this gives us a good opportunity to transition into another update on CD Projekt Red. Unless you're talking about that later.
I am not. Go for it.
Okay. Now, as someone mentioned in the chat, Master of Lies, Cyberpunk is now down to $30, which I won't hold that alone against CD Projekt Red, because we see that happen a lot with games that come out around the holidays. They often dip in price quite quickly after. We see it with Ubisoft games all the time, right? Assassin's Creed is now $35. It's a fine game. It got good reviews. Prices drop. But here's an article on GameSpot.com by Stephen T. Wright about Cyberpunk. It says, Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the biggest games of the past few months, but the controversy surrounding the game continues to grow even a month after launch. Now developer CD Projekt Red has acknowledged that the company is facing a second MAC class action lawsuit from a law firm representing its own investors, who claim that the company misled them regarding the performance of the game on Xbox One and PS4. In a regulatory statement, CD Projekt Red says that the content of the claim, including its subject and scope, is the same as the first class action lawsuit that the company acknowledged a few weeks ago. That lawsuit was filed by New York-based Rosen Law Firm, which represents the investors who claim the company lied to them. See, this is redundant, right? CD Projekt Red said it will undertake vigorous action to defend itself against any claims. The second lawsuit was filed in the Central District of California. And several other law firms have announced that they're filing lawsuits against CD Projekt Red as well. Mac, is this a pile-on or is this legit?
Oh, the sharks can smell blood in the water, and they're circling, Mr. Nice Guy. They're circling.
Doesn't it become redundant at some point, for the gamers to say, yeah, this game is broken, and then for the investors to say, oh, yeah, you misled us, this game is broken. And to me, it's too much. What do you think, though? Are these legit?
Well, I mean, they're legit until they're not, but basically they might wind up consolidating the gamers and the investors, but they are two separate groups of people. You can make an argument that they're two different stakeholders, and that I guess that the injury to each group is different, but I think it's probably more compelling to bundle those two classes together. I don't know. It just kind of depends on the way they want to go, at how narrowly they want to define things. Because if they define it narrowly enough, then maybe there's 3 or 4 different classes of injuries and of peoples. So I don't know. They might wind up consolidating. They might not, but definitely is kind of funny in a sad way to watch.
Yeah, it is. I almost wonder if they would have had the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions ready to go if they would be in this situation. Because if so, I don't know. I don't even know if that makes sense. But I just feel like maybe they had split resources between trying to get the game out on time and also trying to preemptively work on the Series X and PlayStation 5 versions, knowing that those needed to come out in 2021. And they overpromised. They're trying to work on games for last-gen consoles, for PC, and for next-gen consoles, all at the same time for a game that's massive in scope. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that may be where they kind of fell apart. So, well, cool, Matt. Let's talk about one last news story involving freedom of speech. And we'd love to get opinions from y'all in the chat on this. This is on Kotaku.com about a Mortal Kombat tournament player who was recently disqualified. This is by Ian Walker. It says, during an official Mortal Kombat 11 Pro competition spelled with a K, tournament on January 16th, finalist Titanium Tigers was disqualified after jokingly calling out developer NetherRealm Studios by labeling his Shiva variation, a personalized moveset that displays a custom name to opponents, as "Why did NRS do this?" I don't even know what that means, Mac, but apparently it's criticism.
So I actually am a little bit read into the competitive Mortal Kombat scene.
Okay.
And so I completely lied. I actually have no idea, dude.
I was surprised, but I was just gonna go with it.
No, like, okay. But I actually read a very similar article, and apparently, if you've got a combo move, you can basically custom name it. And the NRS, or was it NRS?
Yeah.
And NRS, I guess that's the abbreviation for the game, for the company that made it or balanced it, and that he
NetherRealm Studios. Got it.
And that he didn't like the way that they balanced or nerfed or buffed or whatever that particular character.
Got it. Okay, dude, you just gave so much clarification to this that now it makes way more sense. It says the disqualification made for an awkward moment on the stream. When the official broadcast cut away from the top 8 match after just a few minutes, commentators Husam Metsunes and Sheriff and Miguel Darth Arma Perez were left fumbling for words to explain what happened. So obviously this is happening live. This guy has this quote-unquote troll in the stream. I mean, Mac, gamers complain about games all the time. They complain about stuff being nerfed. They complain about stuff being buffed. Yes, it was done in a live stream during a tournament, a major tournament. But are they going too far here? Remember what happened with Blitzchung a while back?
Yeah.
Totally different. His gripe, his statement was much more politically charged and maybe from a place of passion for his homeland. But once again, freedom of speech, should it be allowed, or are they justified in banning this guy, disqualifying this guy?
Well, I mean, being the weirdo who has read over the terms of service for video games, they reserve the right to kick you for any reason. I've never been privy to the fine print for a tournament on that type of scale, but I imagine that they probably have you sign all sorts of documents that means they can boot you for any number of reasons. So I mean, is it ridiculous? Yeah, a little bit. Is it, is it kind of silly and certainly an overreaction on their part? Probably. Because it's one of those where what do they call it? It's the Barbra Streisand effect, they call it. Where
I'm not familiar. Please, what does that mean for the
so
uninitiated?
I don't remember exactly the initial circumstances, but the idea of the Barbra Streisand effect is that you wind up making it a big deal by calling attention to it. By
okay.
By making it a lawsuit, by doing all of this, you wind up putting it in the public eye in a way that you wouldn't have otherwise. And sure, it was a thing, but it wasn't like a jab. Do you remember when we got started recording Two Nerds in a Pod? Well, back in those days it was Man Cave TV.
And, I do remember.
And we would have people show up and they would make new accounts including our names and saying very not nice things.
I do, dude. I had forgot, but I remember now.
Yeah.
Don't get any ideas, y'all.
Yeah, don't get any eyes. But it was one of those things where we did what should be done, and you just very quietly, get rid of it. When you call attention to it, you mostly just encourage it on small scales and on large scales as well. And I feel like this didn't rise to the level of that sort of things that we were seeing back then in Man Cave TV days, but it certainly is something that, they could have definitely approached him afterwards and been like, not cool, man.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, he goes on to say they banned him in the very first match where he did this. He had no opportunity to change.
Mm-hmm.
And he said if he had been asked, he would have changed it instantly. But it also says official rules don't specify anything about that type of protest, but the code of conduct gives them the right to, at their discretion, disqualify people. So one of those situations. I personally disagree with it. We have some comments in the chat about First Amendment rights and how you give them up when you're in a tournament and all that. But I don't know. I just don't think I like a world where people are immediately banned without giving a chance to change their behavior, unless they're doing something that is objectively disgusting. I don't know. I feel like second chances should be a thing. So, well, cool. That has been our news for the week.
Well, now we are going to turn and look to the past with a little bit of video game history. So, for starters, I want to talk about a game, and Mr. Nice Guy, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Please do.
I'm going to say, if I were to describe an early gen title, we're talking like early home console gens, so, featuring team attack mechanics, time travel, and multiple unlockable characters for your team, what game do you think I was talking about?
The time travel got me off, but I'm thinking maybe either like Chrono Trigger or like one of the Super Mario like Bowser's Inside Story or something like that. Although that one was handheld, so you said home console.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, one of those Mario games where it's an RPG or Chrono Trigger.
Okay, Chrono Trigger, made in 1995. I hear Jonas says Chrono Trigger as well. Well, actually, what we're talking about is not Chrono Trigger, released in 1995, but The Magic of Scheherazade, released in 1987 in Japan.
I was so close.
And re-released in the US, or released in the US, localized, in 1990 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. So this game, solid music, Arabian Nights themed, an action RPG game, and I think it's probably one of the first games with team attack mechanics. I could be wrong. Now, because of the limitations of the Nintendo Entertainment System, obviously it didn't have the same type of style, but if you play The Magic of Scheherazade, that game, it's it's weird because you can see a lot of ideas that would wind up in Chrono Trigger, and there's a part of you that just wonders, did the Chrono Trigger people play this before they got started on, on their game?
I'm sure they did.
There's just a lot of similarities. Anyway, The Magic of Scheherazade, very good game. There are some moments where it kind of drags, obviously, but they did a really good job with that game. I encourage you to give it a look in the future.
Nice. And I didn't catch the console. What console?
NES for the original
NES.
Nintendo, yeah. So I'm going to actually revisit very quickly a game that we talked about last time around, Alundra. Now, we talked about it last time. I recently, though, read an interview with the development team on Alundra, as translated over on shmuplations.com. As an aside, please, you should support their excellent work in translating and preserving developer interviews, because these are interviews that are done, in Japanese, and if we didn't wind up having somebody translate that, well, you'd need to read in order to do anything with that. But some real fun moments from their conversation, right? From their interview that I do want to share because we're not that far yet removed from the first time we talked about Alundra. Let's see. They talked about how people are very likely to throw their controllers in playing Alundra. Like, they're talking about this game before it's released, right? This is an interview opening up, and they're like, yeah, people are going to throw their controllers, man. This is going to be crazy. And
they took pride in that.
Yeah, they took some pride. The lead music guy on the team even said, quote, "I wondered whether I just suck at the game or whether we made the difficulty malicious. But I got through it, and I realized that's not the case." And here's another gem from the narrative designer. And I want you to just pretend for a minute that this, that this didn't come out of, say, mid 90s, but you could hear somebody saying this today. From the narrative designer, quote, "With games of the old days, you'd feel like you really solved the game, and that's where the sense of accomplishment came from. But recently, that's starting to be replaced." Kids these days. Am I right?
Kids these days.
I mean,
get off my lawn.
They were doing kids these days in the 90s. They're like, oh man, kids these days just don't appreciate the games, and how difficult it is. There's a sense of accomplishment from figuring this out. So I guess it's just kind of, the more things change, the more they kind of stay the same.
Exactly.
And then I guess just a passing mention of Panzer Dragoon Orta. If you haven't, you ought to. And
are you a fan of Panzer Dragoon by chance?
I appreciate what Panzer Dragoon, especially Panzer Dragoon Orta, because that version included the original Panzer Dragoon on its OG Xbox disc, which was really cool. So,
cool.
But anyway, that's just some history for you.
Nice. Well, now it's time for the topic of the week, where we talk about something relevant in gaming and give our opinions on it. Now, Mac, the story that we're going to talk about leads into the topic that we'll discuss, but doesn't quite touch it. But I read this and it made me think. And so I want to talk about this. This is from GameSpot.com by Jeremy Winslow. It's about Grand Theft Auto 6, a game that I know you're a huge fan of. Now, Mac, let me ask you this before we even get started. I'm just curious. Have you ever played through a Grand Theft Auto game? Like, played all the way through a single player?
No.
Or even put significant time into one of those games?
So I had a friend in middle school. His name was Jason, stand-up guy. But he had one of the Grand Theft Auto games. I don't remember exactly which one, but he had it. And and I kind of hung around while he played it and got an idea of how the game was played, what it was.
Yeah.
But I never got through the narrative, because I assume that's what you're asking for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because back in the day, it was all about the single player. There was no multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
There was no GTA Online. It was just straight up you with CJ rolling around San Andreas, shooting people, having a good time, making friends, eating burgers, but hitting the gym afterwards because that actually affected your build. But anyway, to the story. A new patent filed by Rockstar Games' parent company, Take-Two Interactive, suggests that the studio is looking into new gameplay systems to increase the situational awareness of its NPCs. The patent, titled, quote, "System and Method for virtual navigation in a gaming environment, outlines tech aimed at creating a realistic experience in video games by making AI smarter at detecting their environment. Specifically, the patent is targeting NPC vehicle driving behavior. Currently in video games, Mac, NPCs can only sense a few objects in their immediate vicinity. This level of detection is typically relegated to other cars almost exclusively, which is why NPC drivers tend not only to run into each other, but also into objects found within the world. Through this new patent, though, Rockstar is looking to give NPCs a distinct driving profile. So, Mac, there's two things I want to discuss on this. Let's start with the first one, which actually is about NPCs. Do you think that smarter NPCs are a thing that's needed or wanted in games? Do you think it will improve the quality by having NPCs that act more like people?
Oh, definitely. I mean,
Yeah,
I
that's the
can't.
softball question.
Yeah, that's the softball question. I feel like yes, I would want a more immersive game experience. And I mean, sure, great writing, like I used to be an adventurer like you until I took an arrow to a knee, that'll get you only so far. More so than that, you need them to be able to not talk and walk through the doors or the walls. I mean, yeah, I kind of want NPCs that are more aware of their surroundings. That does make it harder to steal from them and steal them out of house and home. But I mean, sacrifices must be made.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like bad NPCs are one of the major things that hurt immersion in games, right? Like when you talk to an NPC and then they walk away and they just like walk into a wall and just like keep walking into that wall, and they keep saying the same three lines of text, like it's just silly. And so I think that Rockstar is actually working to do something here that is very, very revolutionary. But Mac, here's the real question that I have for you. Let's talk timeline of games. Grand Theft Auto, and correct me if I'm wrong, chat, came out in 2016, I think. Grand Theft Auto 5. We've seen it across three console generations. We've seen it in the same situation as Skyrim, right? Skyrim on the Xbox 360, PS3, then on the PS4, and now, like, apparently it's going to be available on the PS5 as well through backwards compatibility or whatever. We're getting games less frequently in some of the most iconic franchises that we like to play, but they're higher caliber, right? So, Mac, would you rather have a game more frequently so that you can explore a universe with a new story more often? Or would you rather have a really high quality game that spans three console generations?
Man, I feel like it depends. I mean, high quality games have replayability. High quality games, I don't mind being on multiple generations, just so long as you don't keep trying to make it a big ticket news item every time it comes
Okay.
out on a thing,
Okay.
a
Yeah.
la
Yeah.
Skyrim. But yeah, I don't mind having a solid game that follows you through on multiple generations and makes improvements for the new things, especially where you get the options for, I mean, like, do we have, we don't have a VR option on GTA 5, do we?
There is one, but it's not. It's like a mod, right?
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So
Yeah, but
that's
it's legit though because I watched a video on it and it's legitimately GTA 5 in VR, but it's not something Rockstar did.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, especially when we're talking about stuff like that, I think a beloved franchise, a good solid game that being adapted to new controls and new methods of experience, I think is definitely something worth having. But I mean, I don't know. What about you, Mr. Nice Guy? What do you think about that one?
It's hard because, and it's interesting. Master of Lie just linked me an article on IGN by Matt Perslow that says Sony's new San Diego team is working on existing franchises, which kind of plays into what we're saying. Like, I don't know if this means that we would get some of these franchises like The Last of Us and Uncharted more frequently, or if it just means that they're going to make more side type games for it. But Mac, I could go both ways. Splinter Cell, we haven't gotten a new one since I believe 2012.
That's a
I
travesty.
Yeah, it's been a long time. and that's not necessarily due to lack of resources, but I would love to get back into that universe, right? I would love to see what Sam Fisher has been up to, even if it's a prequel. So I don't know. I mean, I don't like that I had to wait 7 years between The Last of Us. But when it came, the second one, it was so highly anticipated, and it was like seeing an old friend, right? It
Mm-hmm.
was jumping back into a universe. Um, Grand Theft Auto 5, I feel like they're milking it, but I feel like we enable them milking it by people continuing to play it for so long. And so I don't know, man. There's something to be said for too much of a good thing. Let me phrase this in a way that makes sense. I want something that's in between the annual releases of Call of Duty and NBA 2K and the the once every 5 to 7 years releases of Elder Scrolls and Grand Theft Auto.
Mm.
I don't think that we should go more than 3 years between these types of releases.
I think I can agree with you. I think there's got to be a middle ground between the two, and it would be nice. It'd be nice to have some more titles in our favorite genres, in our favorite, you know, universes, game universes.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like just with the whole pandemic and with all the things going on in the world, it really reopened my eyes to how short life is, right?
Mm.
Like we don't know how long we're going to be here. Our time is not guaranteed. And this is going to sound corny, but when I got my VR headset, I knew going in that Half-Life Alyx was the best game. And I was like, you know what? I need to save this game for a rainy day when I want something epic to play. And then I thought about it in a different way, Mac. I thought, you know what? No, I need to play it because who knows how long I'll be here. And I know that sounds morbid and I know that sounds scary and sad, but that's the reality. Nothing is guaranteed. And so I want people to put out games more frequently so that I can enjoy them. I'm in my 30s. Hopefully, I live to be in my 90s. But I want more games now, and I don't want to wait 7 years. I don't want you to rush it, studios, but I don't want you to take 8 years in between releases. That's the best way I could explain it.
Well, I guess that's the take home from this, and that is life is short, play more video games.
That's right. That has been our topic of the week.
Well, I would like to say, as we turn over to Kick or Kickstart, to reemphasize that Mr. Nice Guy and I, we do not discuss our segments beforehand. So when something plays in, it winds up being, complete and utter serendipity. And so, in the interest of your love of Sam Fisher and a type of tactical infiltration style genre of game, I come bearing gifts of a Kickstarter project called Avelina. I'm dropping a link in the chat for you to see, anybody who's with us live. This comes from the French dev, or, as the name would imply, a single French developer. Aveliana, I think I'm gonna mess it up multiple times, is a game that is emphasizes action and infiltration in an isometric and side view type of way. Now, the side bit is depending upon the part of the game, kind of like in A Link Between Worlds, where you would kind of go 2D at certain points, and then, in order to do things. So there are moments where you can hop into there. Now, he is looking for $14,500 sometime in the next 22 days, with an estimated release of December 2021. At a $19 minimum buy-in for this game, and $28/$37 if you're the type of person who wants beta access into a game. $28 is the limited early bird, beta access tier, whereas $37 is the later. And he's looking for a Steam, and as far as I can tell, Steam only is the currently planned release here. The artwork is, I'm not going to lie, the artwork isn't entirely my thing. I kind of like it, but I'm more on the fence about it more than anything else. And of course, a lot of this is sort of based on that idea, from what I've seen of it, at least. It's based on the idea of you've got the option of either being sneaky or stealthy. or you can fight it out and, combat style. So, yeah, Mr. Nice Guy, does anything about this strike you?
Yeah, it strikes me as uninteresting. Like I'm trying
Mm-hmm.
to even just watching this trailer right now.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the character is fighting little cotton balls. Like I don't know what is going on here. And I don't want to crap on this guy's project, but maybe it's because you set it up as speaking of Splinter Cell.
Okay, maybe
And so I
that's my bad. Maybe what I did was I wanted so badly to make the narrative byline work that I crammed it in there.
No, you're good, man. This reminds me of a lot of games that exist already on Nintendo Switch. Um, and they skip my mind right now. I guess this is bland to me. That's the best way I could describe it. Like, even in the amount of content that this person is showing to promote the Kickstarter, it's a little bit less than what I'd want to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me give you an example. When a comedian, like when I apply for comedy festivals, people want to see 5 to 8 minutes, a clip, right, of me doing stand up to know that I can do 5 to 8 minutes straight. And then they probably Google you and they'll see if you have other stuff out there and they ask for references and ask around. I feel like this person gave me like 2.5 minutes of stand-up comedy, right? When I needed 8 to be able to determine if I want to give them my money. I just feel like there's not enough here.
Well, I'll tell you what is there that very often isn't there in a lot of Kickstarters we see, and that is a playable demo. So, from experience, it takes 10 to 15 minutes to work through. So you get your 8 minutes of stand-up. But
okay.
I have to say that the combat in the playable demo is a little sluggish. The combat could really use some fine-tuning, which isn't the worst thing because we are talking about a pre-alpha Kickstarter demo. You should expect things to change, but you should be able to get a decent flavor of how it is. And I kind of am with you there, not to down on anything that the French dev is making here, but so far it feels like it's not quite well-rounded enough. There's not enough variation in what's going on or in the enemies, and the hit detection on the fighting seems like you'll be doing this thing where you'll swing, and the swing is sort of this, this spectrally swing is kind of the best way to describe it. And I'm never quite 100% sure when I'm swinging if it's going to hit or not. The edges of the hit detection are not clearly defined enough for me to make good planning for my attacks. And, when you don't know if you've got the reach, that's when you tend to either miss or you get hit by your enemies. That's kind of how that works. You need these things to be clearly delineated. But yeah, I mean, I'm on the fence about it myself, Mr. Nice Guy.
And this is only coming to Steam?
Yes. As far as I am aware, the only plans are for Steam releases. So yeah.
So part of my skepticism is that when I look at a game like this, I think of where I want to be when I'm playing it, right? There's some games, Mac, where I want to be in front of a TV when I'm playing them, right? Breath of the Wild. Ideally, yes, you can play it handheld, but to me, it's a lot more fun if you're playing it on a screen, right? Games like this, games like Celeste, games like Hollow Knight, I want to be able to play that when I'm on the road. Not when I'm literally driving, but when I'm traveling, right? I want to be able to take it with me on the go, get 15, 20 minutes in here and there. I want to be able to play it in bed. Like I want to be able to just sit around in bed right before and get a few minutes in. This is not a game that I want to play sitting at my computer. That's just not, I don't like this style of game on my computer. And so I think that's part of my skepticism.
No, understandably so. And I myself, again, somewhat skeptical, but I guess we've taken a look at the game. I have to come down on the kick on this one. The 19, what was it? The $19 minimum buy-in is a little rough for a first project. And beta access, $28, $37 for beta access, that's a little steep as well. And from what I've seen of the demo, the estimated release is December 2021. I don't think there is enough time to be able to make the kind of refinements that I would like to see in order to make it a worth $19 game. Like you said, the enemies are all cotton balls, and while there might be more enemies later, it just feels like it needs another iteration in order, both graphically and of course combat wise, it needs some more work there. So that's a kick from me.
Well, I think you summed it up, so I'm not even going to be redundant. I got to say kick as well.
All right. Well, we wish the French dev all the best, and hopefully it gets funded, and hopefully it exceeds our expectations. But that's been Kick or Kickstart.
Nice. Well, now it is time for Nerdflex.
Woohoo!
A segment where you, the viewer, try to stump the host, and you never quite do. Just kidding. Actually, sometimes you do.
Mm-hmm.
But today I don't think is going to be one of those days. So if you are here live with us, let us know in the chat if you have a multiple choice video game question, trivia question that you want Mac and I to try to conquer. And but in the meantime, Mac,
we've already got one from Alex Man.
Okay, why don't we start with that one? Go ahead.
All right. Alex Man 47 asks, how many heart pieces are in A Link to the Past? Is it A,
that's a great
20,
question.
B, 24, C, 28, or D, 18?
So I feel like this might be an attempt at a trick question, because is he talking about...
I think he's talking about the quarters, because I believe there's, and we'll get some clarification, because there's heart containers and there's heart pieces. And I seem to recall that in Link to the Past, you could have 2 rows of hearts, right?
Yeah.
And I want to say that it was either 8 hearts or 10 hearts per row.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was 10 hearts per row. Heart pieces, not heart containers.
Yeah, so, you start with 3.
So yeah, we start with 3, and then you get a full heart container in each of the dungeons. And so then it's the heart pieces that wind up being a quarter. So I feel like it was 20 total, and that you wound up getting something like 12 just from the boss fights and what you started with, leaving 8 empty containers that you'd fill up by doing 8 times 4.
Wait. Okay. So you're saying...
So that would lead me to say something like, what, 36?
But that's not even one of the options.
It's true, that's not one of the options, which is why I think I'm wrong, but I feel like 28 is the correct answer, because I think that's 7.
So 28, 7.
So that would have been 13 heart pieces normally, and then 7 heart quarters on top of that.
Okay, and we made that rule that we want to...
But I'm open to hearing your,
I'm just trying to envision A Link to the Past and how many rows of hearts... I know there's 2 rows of hearts, but how many hearts were in each row? And I feel like it was 10. I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you could get 20 total.
Mm-hmm.
So you start with 3, so that brings it down to 17. And then how many dungeons did we say there were?
We didn't say, but there's at least the 3 pendants.
Yeah.
Near the beginning, and then was it 6 more afterward?
I think so. So let's go with 28. I think that's a lot, though, man.
That is a lot, but there's a lot of things. So we're going to guess.
Let's pick one. Let's just pick one.
Okay, let's guess C. We're going to guess C, 28 heart pieces in A Link to the Past.
Let us know, Alex Man, in the chat, if that is correct.
And I'm just going to take a sip of water.
Mac's going to take a victory sip prematurely.
Oh.
Dang it.
The answer was 24. We were
You no longer get that water. You do not get the victory sip. I'm just kidding.
No victory sip
Drink
of water.
Drink your water, bro. I'm just kidding. You're parched. Drink it.
We'll move on to the next one. How about you read this one? This one's from Metzgirl.
Cool. This is from Metzgirl. What is the elusive island in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald that you have a 1 out of 10,922 with a full team of 6 chance of finding a Mirage Island? New Moon. Wait, hold on. I'm reading terribly. A, Mirage Island, New Moon Island. I
B,
think that's
New
meant to
Moon
say
Island.
B.
Yeah.
Yeah. C, Full Moon Island, or D, Island of the Sun. So let me read that question again. What is the elusive island in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald that you have a 1 in 10,922 with a full team of 6 chance of finding?
I mean, Mirage Island sounds
It's a good
like
question.
sounds like the type of thing. I have no idea what the
Well, that would make sense because like a mirage, something that's not really there, you know, but maybe only appears if you're looking for it at the right angle.
Now, I will say B, C, and D are all themed either after moon or sun. New Moon Island, Full Moon Island, or Island of the Sun. But I feel like if I were going for a New Moon Island or a Full Moon Island, I would wind up going for that island on either a new moon or a full moon, especially if the game had an in-calendar thing. You know what I mean?
We're overthinking it.
Which
right
doesn't
now.
sound... Oh, yeah, we are overthinking it. Definitely.
Should we just go with Mirage?
Yeah, let's just go with Mirage.
Let's go with Mirage. Final answer. Let us know in the chat. Galvatron has a question. It's a good question, but it's not multiple choice.
Yeah.
So we may have to skip that one. If anyone else has one, get one in quick. Otherwise, I have one queued up here in our test bank. Hey, Mac!
We did it. Mirage Island.
We got that one right. Mirage Island.
Excellent
Fantastic.
question, and I'm glad that it was something we could kind of puzzle through and had a hint to it. So, but over to that test bank, Mr. Nice.
So we got this test bank for those of you who are listening for the first time. This is a list of questions that were put in. We do not know the answers in advance, but we just have them here. And it's always funny because this one's very timely based on what we were talking about earlier. Here's the question. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh. We got one from Martin Luther Bling.
Oh, fantastic.
Let's do that instead. Go ahead, Mac.
Yeah. So Martin Luther Bling asks, this game is the first ever to include the Mario character Waluigi. Was it A, Mario Golf, B, Mario Kart 64, C, Mario Party, or D, Mario Tennis? Okay, so I'm sure that it wasn't Mario Kart 64.
Correct.
I am sure that it was not Mario Party, because the first Mario Party definitely did not have Waluigi in it. I'm not so sure about Mario Tennis, and I'm also not so sure about Mario Golf. However, I feel like I tried playing Mario Tennis once and I don't remember seeing Waluigi as an option.
See, and I lean towards Mario Tennis because as I'm playing Mario Tennis on Switch with my kids now, there's just a lot of character available. And so I would think that might be the one that they'd put him in. Also, I think that more people play Mario Tennis than Mario Golf. And so I think that they'd want to introduce him in a game that's getting played more. However, I don't know if you're 100% right about Mario Party. I mean, I'm kind of going with you, but I don't know. I lean towards Mario Tennis or Mario Party.
Mario Party was on the Nintendo 64, and we're not talking about, So
was Mario Tennis.
Huh?
So was Mario Tennis. It was on N64.
Oh, was Mario Golf on N64 as well? Because the thing that I'm basing it off of is I feel like Waluigi, I feel like he came after Nintendo 64.
Yeah, if they just asked me without multiple choices, I would have guessed like Mario Kart Double Dash or something like that. But I think it's Mario Tennis, man. I really do.
Hey, I'm going to go with you here on Mario Tennis.
All right, Mario Tennis, final answer. Let us know in the chat if that is correct. That has been Nerdflex. Hit us up with those questions. Anytime, y'all. Anytime.
And remember, you can go back to a handful of our episodes. It's about every fourth episode in order to get a sound test. And, maybe you'll walk home with a nifty Two Nerds in a Pod pin. Resin
Look at that
pin.
beautiful pin. Look at that beautiful pin.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Now,
and
Martin Luther Bling.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead, Mac.
I was just going to say, it turns out your instincts are right. You are correct. Mario Tennis for the N64.
2 for 3 today. We're doing it.
3, yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, everybody, for bringing your questions. Those were fantastic. Well, now we turn to a little bit of legalese.
Legalese.
And this is going to be a short one. We are talking about episode, we're going to refer back to episodes 122, 124, and 142 when we talked about it. But, oh my God, we're back again. No, it's not Backstreet's back. It's CIG's back. Because
all right.
Yeah, we're talking CIG v Crytek. So a quick recap. CIG started making a game called Star Citizen. And as we mentioned back in episode 122, it was in alpha 3 point something or other at that time. And Crytek had licensed, the game engine company, had licensed to CIG their CryEngine to build the game. And then they later sued CIG, claiming that the single-player version of Star Citizen, called Squadron 42, and the multiplayer version, called Star Citizen, were in effect two different games, and that CIG needed to pay for an additional license in order to make these two games, because they're two separate games. To which CIG responded in the lawsuit, guys, we're not even using your engine anymore. And Crytek responded by saying, well, that's a breach of contract because you can't change to a different game engine. And then in episode 124, things started heating up as the back and forth between the lawyers. I mentioned some of the fun back and forth between the lawyers, and you should go back and listen to episode 124. At the very least, the legalese segment. It was hilarious, some of the things that they said.
Mac remembers what happened in every single episode of the show.
We don't have time for me to rebut that claim. But sadly, in episode 142, we called it case closed because CIG and Crytek decided to settle their differences out of court. And naturally, we never really learned the details of out-of-court settlements. But it's back, and we've learned more. Now, in episode 127, I have a point, I promise. I mentioned that you would be surprised about the interesting information you can get from quarterly reports from game companies. Granted, that was in the context about the lawsuits surrounding the original Xbox, but it still holds true because on page 3 of the quarterly report from CIG, we find out, quote, during 2020, the game company further strengthened its position as a AAA game developer by acquiring, here it comes, a perpetual license for CryEngine from the game development platform provider Crytek, ensuring the business continues to be agile in developing its revolutionary technology. So somehow, some way, after all the things, and please, episode 124, read some of the things that they're saying about each other in that. But somehow they come to an agreement, and at the end of 2020, they have a perpetual license to use the Crytek engine, the CryEngine, for Star Citizen, Squadron 42, and so on, which just blows my mind.
Yeah.
And but hey, curiouser and curiouser things have happened, and this is just a little bit of legalese that certainly blew my mind, but in a good way. And that's been legalese.
Awesome. Well, Mac, thank you for that. And before we go, y'all already know how it works. We have one last segment we like to do called What We've Been Watching and What We've Been Playing, where we talk about just that. And if you're here live, you have a job to do. Let us know in the chat the cool, nerdy stuff you've been into on Xbox, on PlayStation, on PC, on mobile, the stuff you've been watching on Hulu, on Netflix, Amazon Prime, maybe a little bit of YouTube mixed in there, Mac, because we are always looking for cool, nerdy stuff to get into. So if you're here live, let us know. Mac, do you want to lead off today?
Yeah, so what I've got to share is, as for playing, I've been playing some more Chasm. As a fun, I don't want to talk about that. I've been playing some more Chasm. It's great. And I've also been playing a little bit of Oracle of Ages. It's some handheld Zelda game. It's great. As for watching, though, I've been watching some, shall we say, fantabulous stuff, primarily focusing on The Queen's Gambit on Netflix, and it is compelling.
Is it really that good? Because I'm looking for something to get into.
It's good, not for children, but it's good.
Okay.
So yeah, apart from that, that's kind of all I've been watching this weekend because it's compelling.
Nice. Well, for me, and thanks in the chat for those of you who are sharing your stuff. We'll read it at the end. I have been playing a lot of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Like, honestly, Mac, I feel like they've caught the lightning in a bottle that they had when they put out Black Ops 1 a decade ago. And so I've just been loving that, playing it with friends, playing it on stream, playing it off stream. Like, it's just a game that I enjoy to play. Now, I will say the main game that I'm hyped to talk about today, and I talked about this in our Game of the Year discussion, is Spider-Man Miles Morales. I finally rolled the credits on that game. It gave me the feels, Mac. Like, there's some games when you finish them and you're just like, this is why games are art. Like, this is why we play. And if indulge me for a minute. I may have told you the story about how a long time ago I had a family friend who was a games reporter.
Mm-hmm.
And he was friends of the family. He went to E3 when I was a kid. He brought back some tapes of interviews he had done, and he let me transcribe them. There were interviews with Miyamoto, all types of people. One of the questions he asked is, can a game make you cry? Will we ever get to the point where a game can make you cry? Now, I did not shed a tear, but Spider-Man Miles Morales, The Last of Us Part 2, Half-Life Alyx, games like that evoke that type of emotion.
They moved you.
They moved me, exactly. Everything from the opening scene to the musical choice as the credits was rolling was perfect, to the post-credit cutscene. And so Spider-Man Miles Morales, a must-play if you're into superhero stuff. Killer game, and I really enjoyed it. The diversity, the environment, just a great game. So I recommend that. As far as what I have been watching, I've been going old school, dude. So I don't know if you ever watched TGIF growing up, or if that was something you thought was corny. Yeah, you thought it was corny. I knew Mac wasn't into that after school special type stuff. We've been watching Family Matters as a family, and we just watched the episode where he does the Urkel dance. I had totally forgot about that. But my kids all got up, and I got a video of them doing the Urkel dance, and it was a proud day as a father. I've been watching some Boy Meets World. And that's it, man. Watching a couple movies. I took the kids to see The Croods too, like I said, in Milwaukee with no one else around, and that's been it. How about the chat? What's the chat into?
Well, I'll take playing. So Rolf is playing Path of Exile and Slay the Spire. We've got Uncle Ruckus playing Half-Life Alyx, Bastion, Call of Duty Cold War, Satisfactory, and Madden 21. We've got Metzgirl playing GURPS, D&D, and Salvage Worlds. And yeah. Oh, and Galvatron playing Cyberpunk 2077, Paper Mario, The Origami King, 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rising, and Mortal Shell. And apparently Jonah is playing Chasm. Solid choice.
Very good. Now, as far as what people are watching, we got Uncle Ruckus watching The Simpsons, the Rocky series, and Creed. Dude, those movies are so good. I can't wait for the third. I'm so hyped for the third. Such good movies. What do we got here? Galvatron watching Collateral on 4K UHD. Great movie. He says Sassy Justice on YouTube. I have not heard of that. Night Stalker on Netflix. Air Wilson is watching sports shows, Undisputed, The Herd, and sometimes The Jump and First Take. Nice. All about that ESPN. I've been watching a lot of NBA as well. Metzgirl says the Urkel dance is solid. Yes, it is. Martin Luther Bling says Will Smith is now older than Uncle Phil when they started Fresh Prince. That's crazy to think about. And Jonah has been watching The Owl House. Mac, that's it. Why don't you take us home?
All right. Thanks, everybody, for being a part of the show, for making episode 173 what it was. Y'all are the best listeners on podcast platforms. You're the best viewers on Twitch. You're just the best all around. We love you. You need to remember to be excellent to each other and party on, dudes. And on Tuesdays, such as today, at 8 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Central, you can come on over to twitch.tv/2nerdsinapod and party with us. So keep it nerdy, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Later.